Let's start by creating a new project for week 6. I'm going to create a new PHP empty project named week 6. Take the default, and I'll open in this window. So let's look at include and require. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on the week 6 folder and create a new directory, and I'm going to call this includes. And then I'm going to right-click on the includes folder and create a new PHP file called constants. And here's where I'm going to put all of the constants for my project. And then I'm going to include this constants file in other PHP files so that I have access to the same constants throughout my entire program. So let's create a constant for hello string. And I'm going to use the new syntax for constants, which was released in PHP 5.3. Const hello string is equal to hello world. And then I'm going to create another file in my week 6 folder called hello. So the way I'm organizing this is that the files here at top level inside of week 6, those are going to be the ones that the user loads into a browser. And then any file that gets required or included by one of these top level files is going to be inside of my includes folder. So I'm going to includes / constants.php. So the path I'm using is the path relative to the current file inside the file system. So this is not a URL, this is actually the path to a file on my disk. And so hello down includes constants.php. And then the contents of this file are available inside of the file that I just included it from. So I can echo hello string semicolon. So let's go ahead and try loading this and see if it works. And I get hello world, just like you'd expect. So what's the difference between include and require? Well, if I hit reload, I get exactly the same result. So they both include the contents of whatever file I have specified in the file that I include or require from. The difference happens when this file is not found. So let's go ahead and change this to constants x. So this is the name of a file that doesn't exist. And when I execute this, I get some warning messages, but it proceeds and it outputs hello string anyhow. So since this is not defined, PHP treats this as just a piece of text and outputs hello string. So include will generate warnings if you try to include a file that doesn't exist, but it will continue and try to execute as much of the code as possible. Now let's try it with require. Here, it basically dies when the require fails. So it tries to require include / constant x, can't open it, fatal errors, and I don't get any output past the error message. So that's the big difference between include and require. Include will continue even if the file doesn't exist after giving an error message. Require will die right when it fails. So you generally want to use require if you can't do anything meaningful if this file doesn't exist. So how about include once and require once? Well, what if I require this file twice? And hit reload. Now I get an error because constant hello string is already defined. So I've tried to define hello string in this require, and then I've also declared the same constant in this file, which causes an error. It's the same constant, you can't redefine it. And this happened because I loaded the include file twice, which caused that error to happen. Now, if you have files which include other files which include other files, it's pretty easy to end up loading the same include file multiple times, which can open the door for this kind of error. Well, require once fixes that problem. So basically what it does is require once tracks every file that's been required, and if you try to require once the same file again, it says, oh, I've already loaded this, so I'm just going to skip it. So the last one is include once. Which basically does the same thing as include, except it will only load each of these files once. So include warns, require fails. Include once loads once, require once loads once. So which should you use? Well, I generally just use require once. That generally does what I want. If I try to require a file that doesn't exist, that's usually a development problem, and I need to either fix the path or create the file that I'm supposed to be loading. And if I load the same file multiple times, well, I just want to ignore subsequent loads. So require once generally will do what you want if you're consistent in using it. And that's the one that I use most of the time.